She was just 16, a bright young girl walking home, only 7 minutes from safety. But she never made it back. For 6 long months, her family waited, prayed, pleaded, and then came the discovery in the woods. But the most horrifying part, the man accused of killing her was a police officer. The disappearance. On July the 26th, 2022, 16-year-old Susana Morales was walking home from her friend's house in Gwinnett County, Georgia. She texted her mom at 9:40 p.m., saying she was on her way back, but she never arrived. When her family called the police, the Gwinnett County Police Department said what too many families have heard before. She probably ran away. Her family insisted Susana was not the type to just disappear. She had no history of running away, and her belongings were untouched. But instead of launching a full search, police dismissed their cries. For 6 agonizing months, the Morales family waited, fighting to keep her name alive, while law enforcement remained largely silent. The horrific discovery. On February 6, 2023, a hiker stumbled upon human remains in the woods of Decula, Georgia, just 20 miles from where Susana vanished. DNA confirmed what no family wants to hear. It was Susana. Her body had decomposed. The full details of her death, how she died, what she endured, may never be fully known. But investigators believe she had been murdered. And then, covered up. The question on everyone's mind, who did this? Days later, a shocking arrest was made. The suspect wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a local predator. He was a police officer. Miles Bryant, 22 years old, had served in the Doraville Police Department. A man sworn to serve and protect, now accused of kidnapping, murdering, and concealing the body of a teenage girl. Bryant wasn't just any officer. He had a history of stalking and harassing women, one that somehow didn't stop him from being hired, armed, and given authority. He reported his own gun stolen the day after Susana went missing, a gun later found near her remains. Police also found evidence linking him to first-degree burglary. His web of lies began to unravel. He was arrested and denied bond. But for Susana's family, it was too little and far too late. A system that failed her. Susana Morales isn't the only one. In 2022 alone, over 1,100 people were killed by police in the United States, the highest number in a decade. Between 2005 and 2013, over 400 officers were charged with rape, but many more were never held accountable. Latin and Black communities continue to face this violent reality. Young women of color go missing, and their stories often go untold. Their cases dismissed. Their lives forgotten. Susana's case is not an outlier. It's a symptom of a system that refuses to listen, refuses to act until it's far too late. At a Justice for Susana rally, her sister Jasmine said, "It's a police officer. I'm guessing they know how to cover their tracks." Her words echo the fears of so many, that those with a badge also know how to hide the truth. Demanding justice. In the aftermath of her death, Susana's family launched a petition demanding justice. They are asking for a transparent investigation, full prosecution of Miles Bryant policy, change in how missing minors are treated, an end to the 48-hour wait period for filing missing persons reports. They also want accountability from the Doraville Police Department and for Susana's name to never be forgotten. Stop Cop City. Justice for Susana. Her case was the third Latin teen found dead in the area within a month. The community fears there are more victims and more officers hiding behind a broken badge. Susana came to this country with her family, looking for what so many others dream of: safety, a future, a chance. Instead, she was betrayed by the very system meant to protect her. Jasmine Morales said it best. No amount of justice can bring her back. But maybe we can stop this from happening again. If you believe in justice for Susana Morales, share her story. Don't let her name become just another case file. Sign the petition, support her family, and most of Susana Morales came to this country seeking safety. Her family believed in the promise of the American dream. But she was betrayed. Not by a stranger in the shadows, but by a man in uniform, a killer with a badge, a system that looked the other way. No amount of money, no amount of justice can bring her back, her sister Jasmine said. But what we can do is make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else. Let's remember Susana. Let's say her name. Let's demand justice, not just for her, but for every girl who never made it home. Let me know if you'd like this adapted into Urdu, with voiceover directions, or formatted into a teleprompter script for recording. Susana Morales is not an isolated case. She is part of a horrifying pattern, one we've seen again and again. According to Mapping Police Violence, over 1,100 people were killed by police in the US in 2022 alone, the deadliest year on record. And yet, very few of those officers are ever held accountable. What's worse, when the victims are young, female, black, or Latin, their cases often receive less media attention, less outrage, and less justice. Between 2005 and 2013, police officers were charged with rape over 400 times, and experts believe those numbers are drastically underreported. The truth? Bad cops often get protected, not punished. They're transferred, not fired. And the people they harm, they're often forgotten. Our community fights back. But this time, people refuse to stay silent. The Morales family, devastated, heartbroken, stood in front of cameras and crowds to demand justice. Jasmine Morales, Susana's sister, became the voice of a movement. I was shocked. I had to process it. It took months to get answers, and now we know why. It was a cop, someone who knew how to cover his tracks. Protesters gathered in Atlanta, holding signs that read, "Say her name." "Stop Cop City. Justice for Susana." Their voices echoed through the streets, not just for her, but for the other two Latin girls who had recently been found dead in the same region. Families like Susana's come to America for the very thing we can't seem to offer: peace and safety. That peace is what they're fighting for, not just in Susana's memory, but for every young girl still walking home tonight. We cover a lot of crimes on this channel, but this one hurts differently, because the killer wasn't hiding in the dark. He was standing in the light, wearing a badge, trusted, and that trust was shattered forever. If this video moved you, don't just watch. Speak up, sign the petition, say her name, share her story so Susana Morales is never forgotten. Because when the system fails to protect our most vulnerable, it's up to us to hold it accountable. Thank you for watching Unforgiven Crimes. We tell these stories because they matter. Because she mattered. If you believe every family deserves justice, if you believe no one should be ignored because of the color of their skin or where they were born, then subscribe and stay with us. We will not stop speaking the names of the forgotten. Would you like this script formatted into a teleprompter-style layout, or broken into sections with thumbnail and title suggestions? I can also generate YouTube metadata, such as more emotional storytelling, societal context on race, policing, and media bias community impact. One of the most chilling aspects of this case is how quietly it unfolded in mainstream media. Susana Morales was missing for 6 months, Yet there were no headlines, no breaking news alerts, no viral campaigns. And that silence speaks volumes. In the US, missing black and brown girls are less likely to receive sustained media coverage than white victims. This phenomenon is called missing white woman syndrome. We see massive coverage for some, but deafening silence for others. According to the Black and Missing Foundation, nearly 40% of missing persons in America are people of color. Yet their stories rarely lead the news. Susanna's family had to fight for even a single news segment. Imagine grieving your daughter while begging the world to care. As Susanna's case gripped her community, a larger storm was already brewing in Atlanta. The controversial Cop City project. In front of cameras, microphones, and a sea of grieving faces, Jasmine Morales spoke for her sister. Her voice trembled, but her message was clear. No amount of money, no amount of justice can bring her back to us, but we can fight to make sure no other family feels this pain. Jasmine is not just mourning a sister, she's becoming a leader, a protector. The very thing Susanna needed that night. With every protest, every interview, every tear, she's making a promise. Never again. Not one more girl. Not on our watch. Susanna Morales came to America with dreams. Her family crossed borders, hoping for safety, stability, and a future. What they found instead was silence, dismissal, and a predator in a uniform. But Susanna's name will not be forgotten. She's not just a victim. She is a reminder that justice delayed is justice denied. That being a citizen shouldn't be a requirement for being protected. That a badge should never be a license to harm. We owe it to Susanna, to every missing girl who doesn't get a headline, to every mother still waiting for the phone to ring. Let her name echo. Let her story live. And let us never be silent again. For generations, families like Susanna Morales have made the impossible decision to leave everything behind. Their homes, their language, their roots, to seek refuge in the United States. Why? Because they believed America would be safer, that their children would have a better chance here, that here, the law would protect them. But what happens when the law turns on them? When those sworn to serve are the ones doing harm? When immigrants are not only overlooked, but actively endangered by the institutions meant to protect them? That is the cruel truth at the heart of Susanna's story. She came here to escape violence, and she was killed by the very system that promised her safety. The death of a child is not something a family recovers from. It's a wound that never fully heals. For Jasmine Morales, waking up every morning without her sister is a fresh nightmare. For her parents, it's a lifetime of what-ifs. I still wait for her voice. I check her room. I dream of her, her mother told a local paper. The neighborhood too has changed. Once quiet streets now echo with anger, fear, and deep distrust. Mothers walk their daughters home now, afraid. Doors are locked a little earlier. People watch the uniforms differently. Because if a police officer could do this to Susanna, who's next? Experts across the country are warning. What happened to Susanna is not rare. Dr. Sandra Guerra, a professor of criminal justice, said in an interview, "The data has been there for years. Officers who abuse their power, especially in cases of sexual violence, often go undetected for too long. The lack of oversight and internal protection mechanisms are part of the problem." A 2022 investigation by NBC News revealed that in several major cities, officers accused of misconduct were not only kept on the force, some were even promoted. And many departments, including the one where Bryant worked, had no formal systems to track prior complaints or investigate off-duty behavior. The question isn't whether the system is broken. The question is, why do we keep allowing it to stay this way? Susanna Morales could have been a college graduate, a teacher, a nurse, an artist, a voice for others. Instead, she became a headline far too late. A name added to a long list of missing and murdered women who never got the chance to live out their stories. But her death does not have to be in vain. Her name can be the one that starts change. Not just reform on paper, but real justice, real protection, real equity for the communities who've been ignored for far too long. We've told you Susanna's story. Now it's up to you what happens next. Will she be another forgotten victim, or the face of a movement that refuses to stay silent? One girl, one family, one chance for justice. Say her name, share her story, and never stop asking the question, what kind of country lets this happen and does nothing? They failed to see her as a child worth saving, but we will remember her as a light that should have never gone out. Unforgiven crimes. Watch next. She was missing for 2 years. Then her remains were found in a cop's backyard. Subscribe for more true crime stories that deserve to be heard.